Thursday, September 2, 2010. This is the start of an interview with Mr. and Mrs. Richard Kanaby at the RSVP offices of Catholic Services of Macomb, 26238 Ryan Road, Warren, Michigan.
Hi, sweetheart.
Hi, Gail. How are you?
Mr. Kanaby is 90 years old.
You're here for me,
He was
okay?
born January 17, 1920. Mr. Kanaby currently resides at 15894 19 Mile Road, Clinton Township, Michigan. My name is Dave Brousseau. I will be the interviewer, and Paul Wilhelm will be the videographer. Mr. Kanaby, would you state for the record the branch of service for which you serve?
I served in the Transportation Corps, and which was covering the 4 companies that were under me, and they were distributing supplies throughout the Pacific area that we covered.
For the U.S. Army.
For the U.S. Army.
Let's go back, and perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what your life was earlier when you were young. Your family, how big was it? Where'd you go to school? That kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. There were a family of 4 boys, and we went to a country school that was a mile away, which I walked to. And later on in high school, I walked 4 miles each way to high school for 3 years.
And that was,
One year, my brother next to me is 2 years older. He had a car, and we drove that year.
Where were you in the chain of birth?
I was the youngest.
his mother had 3 boys in the service at one time.
Mm.
Yeah,
How did she handle that?
not easy.
I'm sure.
She fell apart when he came home.
Mm.
Very difficult.
Yeah, she picked me up in Detroit, and my wife with me, and when we got to our homestead in Harbor Beach, which was 4 miles out of town, she fell apart.
Mm.
Well, she stepped in the house and hugged him and said she never thought she'd see him again. It was 4 years since she had seen him. By the time he went in and his basic training and whatever.
No furlough
4
time, huh?
years.
No,
Nothing.
Was there a time when you were able to see him in that period?
Yes, I spent our last penny and went out to California to see him
Hmm.
before he left for overseas.
Oh, so once he was shipped over, that was
That was
the
it.
last of it until he returned.
Exactly.
and it took, my boat that I was on took 28 days without an escort, getting over to Australia.
So you went, well, let's go back a step now. You went to school where?
Harbor Beach, Michigan. That was high school. Grade school was a mile away from home. And
It was a little country schoolhouse.
yeah,
While you were still in high school, then your brothers were in the service, were they not?
2 of them were.
Mm-hmm.
The second oldest, Andy, and myself. And Dan was in for a short period, but he was allowed to get out because had something wrong with his feet, so he couldn't march or anything.
That must have been terribly disruptive to a family to have.
Yeah,
Extremely. I was only happy that I was able to work.
Mm-hmm.
I was glad I didn't have any babies at the time. And
So, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I was drafted,
But you were finished with school.
right.
Did you have a job yet, or?
yes.
Yes, I had a job.
What was it?
See, I worked
Elevator.
in the elevator industry,
Mm-hmm.
and
Were you in the farming community, sort of?
No.
No?
No, it was in Detroit.
Oh,
He was a
at that
mechanic
time,
at that time.
we were in a farming community before that, when I
Okay.
was going to high school. Yes.
when you were drafted, did you have any choice of where you were gonna be sent?
No,
I don't think so.
Where did you go for boot camp?
that would be,
Little Rock, Arkansas.
yeah, Little Rock, Arkansas.
How was boot camp? Can you remember?
Oh, yes.
That wasn't worth talking about.
Not enough time, that's for certain. It was very brief.
It was 6 weeks in
Off he went.
boot camp, and then I was shipped to California.
Now,
For
you
overseas.
were drafted right after Pearl Harbor then, right?
Right.
Did you anticipate this happening?
Oh, I did, as soon as we saw Pearl Harbor
Oh, yeah, as soon
hit,
as we saw it.
definitely, we felt.
Tell me what you thought about when Pearl Harbor was hit.
Oh,
I'm going. You know,
Very
whether I like it or not, I'm going.
it was extremely difficult to see,
Yeah.
very, very difficult.
Yeah, when we saw that on TV, my dad was with me at the time, or with us, and I knew that I was going.
Did you feel a certain amount of patriotism that you wanted to go?
Not really.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
You know, there's that
Yeah,
feeling of wanting to be home.
That created a lot of anger, I think, among the American citizen people. And
It was kind of shocking,
Yeah.
let's put it that way, yeah.
were you scared?
Well, I didn't really enjoy it, but I was kind of anxious about it, yeah.
Well, you dodged a lot of bombs, did you not?
Oh, yeah.
Lived in tents?
How did you feel? Was this the first time you were away from home?
Well, away from my homestead, I was in Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
and I had work in the elevator industry there. And so I left from Detroit. And
Was it Camp Custer? You were
Battle Creek,
Battle Creek, Camp Custer?
Michigan, went through there, and then down to Little Rock, Arkansas, and 6 weeks there, and then went to
Angel
California.
Angel
from there.
Island, was it not? Huh?
Angels Island,
Mhm.
and then back to the mainland, and then got on this boat for Brisbane, Australia.
Were you ever on a boat before?
No,
Fishing?
just Bombalo, maybe.
Yeah, right. That's about it.
That's about it.
How did you think about your trip? 28 days? Good
Yeah,
grief.
I couldn't think too much because I got seasick
No.
real bad. In fact, my buddies led me up the stairs to the captain's quarters. He said, "You lay down and you stay there until we dock."
He was very ill.
So I was pretty seasick.
What skills did you get while you were in boot camp that prepared you for where you were gonna go?
I don't know of any real skills. Well, yes, in a way. I was the rigger for the port there. And I was the head one in charge of the rigger, and chief taught other guys, other soldiers how to tie knots and also splice rope and stuff.
Is that what you learned in boot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I learned that from my father when I was at home,
Oh,
and I taught the other kids the same, how to do that.
so your entry into the war was Brisbane.
Right.
Um,
How long were you there? I don't remember. I thought it was a very short time. You went to
Very
the
short
islands.
time. I went from there. I went up. I went up to Luzon. Went up past Manila and down through
New Guinea?
Milne Bay. In the meantime, as we were going up to Milne Bay, the Japanese had us off the coast, and there were 22 Japanese bombers that hit us, and they were all shot down because of the escort we had, destroyers and so forth, except that one of the destroyers was hit in the bridge, and he later limped into Milne Bay. So he got away all right, finally. And from Milne Bay, well, we just had the one Japanese bomber that was left. He dove into the bridge of this one boat, and that was the one that limped into Port Lake. But we withstood the wrath of the Japanese.
now, you're in a troop carrier boat at that time?
It was a regular Liberty ship,
Okay,
so they used them as troop carriers.
and at the time you had apparently some support
Yeah, we had some
ships that
We had
providing you some protection.
right.
So there wasn't really anything you could do except sit down with a bag of popcorn and watch the show, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, they said, our commanding officer said, everybody get down below deck and stay there. And none of us did. We all stood out on the deck and watched the show.
Wow. How did you feel about that?
Well, we were happy to see that we were taking advantage, or we were getting the best of them. And that was about the only thing we could do.
Were you scared?
A little.
Had there been any notice of submarines in the area?
Yeah, one-man subs.
Oh,
that was the thing that we had to watch for. Because you couldn't tell where they were and when they were gonna hit. You had to watch for them. And,
How many were aboard the troop carrier?
oh, it'd be hard to tell.
Couple thousand?
It was probably 1,000 at least, yeah.
From there, when did you land in New Guinea? Because I had so much mail from those islands. So from
Wow.
there, you went on to New Guinea and go on? Remember?
I didn't go to Guam, I went to New Guinea.
I remember New Guinea. He said the rats were as big as our cats, and they would eat their soap and whatever in their tents.
I was stationed at,
They had to hang everything, their clothing, and you talked about scorpions in your shoes.
stationed at Oro Bay in New Guinea. And that's where we camped for quite a while. And we had to have mosquito bars with a
Netting.
shelf up above, and then we tucked the mosquito netting underneath our mattress to keep the rats from getting in. And the rats, like my wife said, they were like cats. They were big. They were huge. And the guna grass that was around us was so high that they just kept coming. We had to protect ourselves from them.
And the diseases were terrible. They lost a lot of
Disease.
Yeah, disease was high.
What particular diseases?
Scrub typhus, one of the worst. That was probably the
Malaria.
one we feared the most. If you got that, there was a 19-year-old in my company that got it and lost all his hair.
What causes you to catch that? Is it just a
It's just a
virus or?
tick.
Oh,
It's a tick that does it. Yeah.
was the Army good at providing you medical attention to avoid these things, or
Not really. They weren't.
kind of the,
They weren't.
They weren't prepared in the beginning.
They weren't prepared
At
for
all.
it at all. They didn't. It was all new to them.
yeah,
And
With some of your closest friends, the one gentleman I had met lost his mind overnight, went berserk.
Wow.
He stole the captain's Jeep and went roaming. Of course, they had to.
was that just the stress of where he was?
Exactly.
Did you see a lot of that?
yeah, and he was sent back to the States. In fact,
Wonderful gentleman.
he was a sergeant, and I took his place in the company. And later on became sergeant major for the 4 companies under us.
You were in for less than 3 years, right?
3 years and 2 months, I think it was.
Yep.
You moved up in rank quite fast.
Yeah.
Is that a good part of the result of being on a war front?
I suppose, part of it, yeah. And being capable of handling men, because I had that experience before.
Where do you think that came from?
I think a great home, wonderful father.
I think Dad was the one that inspired me. He's the one that taught me rope splicing and knots and stuff like that.
Well, wasn't he on the boats in Michigan?
Yeah, he was
He was on the boats.
he was a first mate on the Great Lakes, and he learned all that stuff.
Very,
And then he passed it on to
very brilliant.
me.
what was your function while you were in Australia, Philippines?
You weren't there very long, were you, honey?
Well,
Not that I remember.
yeah, I went to,
You were ill one time, they sent you to Australia for 2 weeks. For a rest.
What was it?
Remember that? For a rest, because he was ill, he was not feeling well.
What do you think that was?
Probably stress. I'm sure of it.
probably stress, yeah.
In his stomach, he had a very bad stomach.
While you were there with all of this hostile action going on, how does that make you feel? I mean, do you just get in it and do it, or do you sit back and worry about whether you're gonna be around the next day, or?
No, you just kind of get into it and go with the flow.
Kinda helps?
Yeah,
And pray,
Yeah.
pray.
When you wrote back home, were you known as a frequent communicator, or?
well, my letters going back home were highly sensitive. Couldn't say too much.
Right.
He couldn't tell me anything about where he was.
Mhm.
All of,
I never knew other than he'd say his APO number would change, then I knew he moved.
And how did you, what did you put on the envelope? How do you do that? My brother was in Vietnam and he just drew a stamp and said free, and that's how his got home.
that's,
You had an APO number
That's an
that I had to
APO number.
follow.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
when
never,
I wrote.
he would just draw a pretty picture of a stamp and say free.
Oh, that was nice.
that's nice, yeah.
Yeah, no, he
I
had
thought that was
wrong
kinda
number.
interesting.
Very
No
long number.
numbers, no nothing.
That was unusual,
I don't know. I just
because
thought
he
that
always
was.
had a number.
And his letters were not frequent to us, but they would oftentimes come 2 or 3 at a time.
Exactly, I was going to say that, yeah, they'd back up kind of.
Yeah,
And the sad thing was, I mailed him cookies and such, and we were told to put them in metal containers.
yeah.
Do you know that many times it was all opened at the post office, he'd get the cord and the wrapping? That is no lie. I was heartsick. One time I
Wow.
sent him, he said he could smoke a pipe on occasions, just to pass the time. And I bought him a nice tobacco pouch and got him some, he liked the sweet, weak tobacco.
So somebody was eating that stuff.
They were taking it, we don't know where it ended up, but he never received the leather pouch and stuff. And I went out of my way to get something nice for him. And he wrote and said, don't waste your time,
No.
because he wasn't getting it. And when the Red Cross went over with cigarettes and candy bars and things, what did they do with it, honey?
They sold them to
They
us.
sold it to the boys. They literally charged them. Can you believe that? I was shocked.
I've heard that.
That is true. That is true.
No, that's not really shocking.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we will not donate to the Red Cross today.
Well,
I will not. I'll donate to church or other areas, but not Red Cross. Not after they treated me.
there's so much about wars that happen that you don't know about.
Exactly.
Because it's the first time a lot of these people, every time we go somewhere, it's a different place and we're never prepared, so,
Right,
Exactly.
uh,
It was a shocker.
yeah.
well, we were, like I said, our boat spent 28 days getting over to Australia. And we had, like I said, no escort, and we were on our own.
What was your food like on the ship?
The food was just rationed. And a buddy of mine and I slept on the hard deck. And we had a wool blanket under us and one on top. And it would rain a lot in the South Pacific. So when we got wet, we just got up and wrung it out and laid it back down.
Now, did you move in and around a lot of the islands quite a bit?
No, it was just strictly, once we got to Australia, it was Luzon and,
New Caledonia?
yeah, I went through New Caledonia.
New Guinea?
New Guinea, definitely, yeah.
Isn't that where you had mass out in the field?
Yeah, New Guinea.
Yeah, they'd have mass in the field.
What was New Guinea like?
Well, it was very stressful with the diseases and stuff. The natives carried this stuff. And between them and the bombs, like we were at church one Sunday, happened to be my birthday. And there were 22, because my birthday was 22. And there were 22 bombers came over. I thought they were our people. And we were counting them, and all of a sudden we were getting bombs dropping, so we hit the dirt.
What was the purpose of them bombing? Was it the airstrip, or was it just
Well, it was
the people?
It was mainly the airstrip.
Yeah.
Yeah, mainly the airstrip.
And after they bomb it, I suppose the next day, the Seabees or somebody came in and put them back up again, and
Yeah,
it was just a constant routine of blowing them up, refixing them, blowing them up.
yeah.
Well, didn't they have supplies as well, you said?
Well,
You work with supplies?
yeah, well, I did work on supplies, so
That's why they bombed a great deal.
they were after our supply line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Pearl or from California? Your supply line?
Came from California.
California?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the food like over there?
Not too good.
Your favorite?
We,
Canned mutton.
well, a lot of times I was at a position as sergeant to have one of my men go to the supply house and get me a can of pork and beans and eat that cold. So that was dinner.
So there wasn't a real chow line, so to speak, is there?
Well, they did have some chow lines, but for the most part, the food was so bad that when we got to the end of the chow line, we dumped it in the trash. Didn't eat it,
It was all dried food.
so.
And in those days, it wasn't much.
And it rains and very humid, kind of,
Yeah.
you know, that insufferable stuff that,
Rained a lot,
Wasn't it 110 temperatures?
yeah, up to 110. You get very hot.
what were the locals like? Just natives?
Just natives.
Yeah.
They were not civilized or anything like that. Not at that time.
Were they sympathetic to you or the Japanese?
I think just basically they looked out for themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were kind of the invaders, whoever you were.
Yeah, right. They
Didn't they, excuse me,
didn't know us.
didn't they come get your food after it was thrown out? A lot of the natives? You said that you
In the
were,
Philippines, a lot of the Filipinos would come and dig through our trash, get food, and sometimes we'd dump our food right in their basket. I don't have it.
I don't think he ever got any fresh foods,
No.
bananas or anything, and they were fairly.
There weren't any fresh fruit
Nothing.
available on the islands?
Yeah.
Well, they were available, like bananas were plentiful, but we never got were shipped out for use in U.S. and Australia, I guess. I don't know where they got shipped to. Other than that, there was just coconuts, which I drank a lot of coconut milk and ate a lot of coconuts.
When you could get it,
Yeah, well, I had some natives climb the tree and knock them down. They had machetes and
What'd you have to pay them?
nothing really.
Chocolate bars, or
We-
did you get any of those?
I don't recall
You
getting
never
any
talked
chocolate
about
bar.
it.
No, I don't recall.
Those were plentiful in some places.
That was probably later.
of course, with the temperatures as hot as they were, you
Well,
know, they
that's
couldn't
true,
keep
yeah.
it. They lived out in the open.
Yeah.
They lived in tents.
Were you near or around the Philippines when the Japanese retook the island?
I was there when they retook it.
After they dropped the bomb, wasn't it? You went
But
there onto Hiroshima?
yeah, I think it was.
That's when it was. You said you went after they dropped the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you told me.
Seems to me, MacArthur left the Philippines when they retook it,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure, 43?
44?
MacArthur
And MacArthur was shipped over to New Guinea or someplace.
was from my hometown.
Really?
Yeah, and he was in charge of the Philippines. And then he left there and came back to...
Excuse me, honey, wasn't that Murphy that was from Harbor Beach?
Oh, yeah, that was Murphy.
It was Judge Murphy.
Judge Murphy.
He
I'm
was
sorry.
here in Detroit for some time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
Judge
sorry.
Murphy. He still has a museum in Harbor Beach,
Mm.
the home that he lived in.
Yeah.
I saw it last year. Yeah, that's
Now, the Japanese retake the Philippines. What did you think about that? Were you afraid of being the next island to get taken? I don't imagine the ultimate outcome of the war was obvious at that time. You guys were still taking a lot of heat,
Yeah.
and decisions as to what was gonna happen are probably not even
No,
talked about.
no.
Was that a little scary when you started?
Yeah, we didn't know what was gonna happen, really, you know. So, you just had to hope for the best.
Were you ever, did you ever have to confront the enemy?
No hand-to-hand combat, anything like that.
Honey, where was it when you got off ship? The Japs were laying for you, and they shot men like flies as they were coming off the back of one of those large ships. I don't know what they're called, but he said it was pathetic. They were just,
Landing craft.
yeah,
Mhm.
they were shooting our men as they got off the boat, just
Yeah,
wiping them out.
landing
Had to be
craft.
horrible.
That
Yeah,
must have been an invasion of one of the islands, huh?
They were waiting for the Americans,
Yeah.
yes.
invasion of,
Just a bad area.
invasion of Oro Bay, I think it was at the time.
I don't remember. But when he told me that, I couldn't watch the movie on TV when they
Oh,
showed it.
imagine.
I just couldn't. I couldn't go to
When you
movies.
rode home, did you write this kind of stuff?
Oh,
Couldn't.
no, he couldn't tell me anything. All he could say, his letters at first, he tried to say a little bit, and they were all cut up. They'd literally cut the sentences out, and I got a sheet with cutouts everywhere. And he finally knew he couldn't tell me anything other than he said, when you see my APO number change, you know I've moved, but he never could tell me where. I learned all this after he came home. That's what was so difficult. We never knew anything that went on.
Probably was to your betterment,
It was for
not to
me.
know.
It was for me,
I
definitely.
mean, it had to be a little scary, but still,
Right,
what he didn't tell you was probably
exactly.
the good news.
But it was still hard to take.
Sure.
You know?
Because I can't imagine you would have even been able to imagine.
Over 3 years, I didn't think he'd ever come home,
Hmm.
honestly. I almost forgot what he looked like. Yeah, it was very, very difficult. And when he came home, he was so yellow from the Atterburn. And then he stepped out of the cab and I could not believe it was him.
Hmm.
I said to myself, that cannot be him.
When
And
did you find out he was coming home?
all he could tell me was when my mail stops, I might be coming home. Nothing was certain.
Now, did this just happen out of the blue, or were
It was
things
after-
building to that?
Well, I didn't know, 'cause he could not tell me anything. But most of the men they were on a point system, were you not?
Yeah,
They were drawing names.
but that didn't amount to a lot, because
No.
it only sent one guy
Yeah.
home.
He was one of the last to come home, and on the train, the men had chalk or something, and he said they wrote MacArthur's Stooges all over the train when they came home. I said, that was very nice.
Yeah. Well, when you did get out, you got out after the bomb dropped, so you must have been
He was there.
anticipating that he was coming home because
Exactly.
it was over,
But I knew.
for whatever you knew.
Exactly, but I wasn't sure when, you know. Till he hit Chicago and called me.
I'll be darned. So you get this phone call and
He's on his way,
you
he's.
say, where the heck are you?
When you hit the States, what was your feeling?
Well,
He was numb,
we came
absolutely
into
numb.
San Francisco,
Oh, yeah.
and then we were shipped up to,
How did they greet you in San
I
Francisco,
think it was
remember?
Camp Hood, I think, north of there. And they issued us, they took all our clothes away because of the disease, and they issued us one issue of winter clothes and said, we can go home.
Only the clothes on his back is all he came home with.
Now, you're in San Francisco. What did they give you to get home?
Milk, remember they served you milk?
Did they give you a airplane ticket or a,
No, there was just a train,
oh, a train?
yeah. Yeah.
That must have been a
Our
picnic.
commanding officer at the base said, you guys have been over so long. He says, I'm gonna make sure that you get on a train in the morning and head for home.
So I imagine it stopped all the way
Yeah,
for everybody to get off.
it stopped.
Tell us how you felt about that while you're on the train. That must have been quite a feeling, knowing,
Knowing you're going home was great. It's a great feeling,
Well, remember when you got to Frisco? Was it Frisco?
yeah.
And they served you milk and everyone got ill because they had not had fresh milk?
Everybody got diarrhea.
Everybody was
Really?
very ill, yes, yes.
On the way up to Camp Stoneman, we all got sick.
They were all sick. Well, when he got home and his mother fixed a nice dinner for him, he got very ill. We had to go to the doctor. And
Just not
his
adjusted.
stomach could not handle
Handle.
our food at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had quite a time.
so you're getting closer to home. What are you feeling like?
Elated.
I suppose every time you stopped and you bid farewell to some more friends,
Yeah,
the excitement was probably building.
building up, right.
So you get in Chicago and you give your little sweetheart a call, then what?
Let's see,
You had to find a hotel room at 2 in the
Yeah,
morning, you
that-
said. They dropped him off at 2 in the morning
yeah.
and
Yeah.
said, find a yourself a room.
Me and three of my buddies.
That was the greeting.
Yeah, we got a hotel room
It was.
at 2 in the morning, and the four of us slept there for a couple hours. And then we left at 6 in the morning.
And where did you go from there?
We were headed for Detroit.
How did you get there? Train again?
Yeah,
I think so, and then you took a cab.
But the Army paid for you to get home, right?
yes.
So you had some kind of a ticket or something?
I don't
I
remember.
don't remember that. I think it was just a troop train, you know,
Oh, okay.
so it was automatic that we didn't pay anything.
Then he had to return to Chicago the next week to be discharged.
Mhm. How did, another train?
I think so. I went with him then,
Oh.
yes, it was by train.
So you found out he was home from Chicago?
Well, he called me
Yeah.
at Chicago and said that he would be coming home. And until I saw him step out of the cab, I didn't believe it.
Mm.
I really didn't until I saw him.
Your wife mentioned something earlier. What was the reception like in San Francisco when you pulled in?
No reception?
No reception?
Nothing.
Didn't even know who you were, huh?
No. Didn't care
Wow.
less.
Now this is,
Till the war was over.
Yeah, the
They
war
could
was
care
over.
less.
well,
They maybe could care.
So
but
they
didn't
fought the
show
war.
it.
That
Wow.
was the acceptance. But I will say, as bad as his stomach was, I think his heart problem started shortly after that.
Oh,
He's
yeah?
had cancer on his face 3 times.
wow.
He was cut on his cheek here, all the way down to his lip. They cut 3 times on him, 35 stitches. And the nurse said, when she asked what his background was, and I said he was in New Guinea at 110 temperature, she says, oh, that did a great deal for him.
Mhm.
Yes, we've had a lot of medication. He had 5 bypasses, stents to the kidneys. We've had a lot of doctor bills.
And you attribute a lot of that to,
That's what they claim. Yes,
Mhm.
it goes back, a lot of it. Because he was ill as soon as
are
he
you
came
on any
home.
disability from the Army?
No,
He didn't deserve it.
not really. No, I don't. I'm not
Well, I
on
will say they
disability.
did give him the scooter, whoever did. He did
Well-
get this. We got a bill, but he called up and we got an $800 bill for
Great.
this chair since we've been here. It's about, what, a month old?
Yeah,
And he got a bill, well, they told us it would be free. So he called up. and
This is the veterans?
Was it through the veterans? I can't recall, honey, how you ordered this.
it wasn't through the veterans, but when
It
I
was a
called up
scooter
and I told
store.
them where I lived, they said, well, there's no charge.
Hmm?
But they still billed us. However, he called just the other day. And the
So this is new.
This is new, yes.
Does he use it all the time?
Pardon me?
Does he use it all the time?
Yes, he does, yes. He can't walk the halls back and forth. Well, he was hospitalized after we moved in here. It was maybe, what, 2 weeks? 3?
Yeah.
He was back in the hospital with heart failure for 16 days. I didn't think he'd make it, he was so bad. So really, he took his first shower yesterday on his own. I mean, I was there, but he sat down and took his first shower. Before that, it was just, I was sponging him.
Hmm.
So it's not been the best.
So how big was your family?
My family, his family.
Your family?
Our family, 4 boys.
4 boys.
Yeah.
Are they around here?
No,
Oh, they're not.
no, I'm the last one living.
But between you two, you had how many?
3.
3.
Yeah,
2
well,
boys and a
actually
girl.
4, I lost one.
And are they still around here?
Oh, yes, I have one son here in Macomb Township, and I have a daughter in Colorado Springs, and I have a son in southern Indiana.
And how many grandchildren?
We had 5 grandchildren and we have 4 great-grandchildren.
Whoa,
Beautiful children.
Congratulations.
Naturally. Thank you.
do you?
Beautiful. Don't see them enough, really.
Yeah, I
'cause
was
they're-
just gonna say, how often do you get to see them?
Well, our second son's children are here in Detroit. However, they're busy with work and everything. They're not married. But our married children are all in Indiana. So sad to say. We have a little football player, a little baseball player. They're 10, 9. Little Ella, I believe, is 5, and her brother is 3.
That's gotta be difficult that you don't have the chance to.
Yeah,
see
but
them as-
we call and we chat.
That's nice.
My daughter, especially in Colorado, we chat.
Do you have Skype?
Pardon me?
Skype,
No.
that's the little TV camera that sits on your computer,
No,
and when you talk with them,
no, we don't have that.
you have the opportunity to get a vision.
No, we
You,
don't have
you-
that.
you can see, I've got a
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
nephew, and he was away at school, and I got this, and it's not very expensive, it's just a
Really?
little, and he can see you and you can see him and you can talk, just
Oh, how nice.
right through the internet.
We're not,
You should check on that.
we're not up on all that because he's not been able to drive.
Well, you don't need to know anything about it, just,
And,
you can pick it up at a Best Buy and,
would Walmart have that sort of thing?
probably, I don't know.
Yeah, I think they probably would.
Yeah, it's,
Because I
you
can't.
gotta
drive.
get hep now, cause this will give you an opportunity to see your kids.
Yeah.
And it's not really expensive to do.
That would be wonderful. We'll do some checking. Maybe
Yeah.
our son will find time to check.
Yeah,
He's so busy. Sad to say, we are not in the best of health, and our daughter-in-law's parents are kind of in the same boat. They're selling their condo and going to Florida, so our son is awfully busy between both parents. I feel for him.
yeah.
He does what he can. He's been wonderful.
Well, this would be, it's been helpful to me because although my family is all local here,
Oh, you're fortunate.
the grandkids and the nephews that are, you know, close are now sprouting wings, and now you get a
Scattered.
chance to see them and talk with them. So anyhow,
That is nice to have.
when you came back, what's the first thing you did after meeting again with the family? I imagine your mother was just out of her
Oh,
mind
she was. She was.
Yeah,
She
with
just-
joy.
She just wanted to cook and do everything for him, and he couldn't handle the food. It was so sad. She loved to cook. Fabulous cook.
She held up until we got into the
Yeah, they had
homestead.
to literally give her brandy and settle her down. She just literally,
Oh, my goodness.
oh, felt, she just couldn't stop crying.
Was your father still alive?
No,
No.
Dad was gone.
he died in his sleep,
Cerebral hemorrhage.
and
Yeah.
he went peacefully.
Good.
But she was very comfortable with me while he was in the service. We had a wonderful relationship.
Great.
She was fabulous, lovely.
At least you have somebody to.
Oh, yeah.
So now, what's the next thing in your life? You're home, you gotta find a job, what'd you do?
Oh,
You had a job, I believe, honey. You didn't have to look.
no, I could,
Houghton hired you.
yeah, I could work with the company I was with, as long as that I wanted to.
Couldn't buy a car, so he had to carry his toolbox. He was a mechanic
Rode the
for
street,
elevators.
rode the streetcar with
Or,
a toolbox.
Yeah. But all he wanted to do was go to work. I will say, he did not sit and complain. As soon as he got his clothing and got himself together, he went right to work. And he didn't talk about much of anything.
why was the car not available? Is that still a
Everything was
hangover?
rationed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Even then?
They weren't
Oh,
around.
yes, we couldn't buy shoes. You were allowed, while I worked, you were allowed 2 pairs of shoes a year, and you had to have cards or whatever. We had stamps to get things.
I
Butter was
remember those.
rationed, sugar.
Green stamps? No.
No, the green stamps were the free stamps, I think, from the store.
The ration
Ration.
cards.
They
The
were
ration
ration
cards,
cards,
yeah.
yes.
Little
Everything
round
was-
things?
I know, I love to sew. I couldn't get a sewing machine at all. Before our son was born, our first, he was born, well, we lost our first baby, so he was born like 3 years later. And we had an ice box, a wooden ice box. We lived on the 3rd floor, I kid you not. And the iceman would come once a week with a block of ice like so. And it was amazing, it did
Yes.
well. But I put my name in at Hudson's for a refrigerator before my son was born. And we got it, I think, a month before. I had my name in for months. You went on a list for everything, even for rent. When we were looking for an apartment, your name was on a list. But because he maintained elevators in this one complex, it was on Grand Boulevard,
Yeah.
the lady said, the next apartment I have will be yours, when she found out, he had been in service all that time.
Mm.
So we got an efficiency apartment, which was nice. But I could not buy a sewing machine anywhere. Put my name on the list, and I got a long shuttle, which I wasn't familiar with. But I took it. You had no choice. When the refrigerator came, Hudson's called and said it was in, and I said, did it have the vegetable crisper at the bottom? No, nothing. But you can buy a box. I said, I will take it,
No,
because having a baby,
yeah.
you need it. And I did take the refrigerator.
Um,
But even with the car, he had to put his name in, wait for a car.
What was your first car?
The Hudson.
Hudson.
Hudson Terraplane.
Oh, it's a
Oh,
gorgeous
my
car.
goodness.
Wish we
They
had
weren't-
it.
They weren't very,
Was it new?
yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't very popular at the time, so I guess that's why. I
I'm
got
not sure they were
But-
very popular anytime.
Oh, but it was
Yeah.
a fabulous car.
It was a nice car.
Gorgeous driving.
I'm curious, tell me about the Dutch cattle ship.
Oh.
What in the world is that?
Well, if you can imagine a bunch of cattle down in the boat inside, the stench was bad. So that's why we slept on deck. And,
So that's what it was, a cattle ship, right?
yeah,
Now, they were using those to transport back and forth?
yeah,
Imagine they got pretty scarce of what they could find.
Evidently,
Yeah.
sure.
And the Liberty
That's
ships
what it
were
was. Mhm.
slapped together and
yeah, they were
were
swept.
blowing up frequently,
Oh,
so.
yes.
That's right,
No, it was
very true.
a bad time.
Tell me a little bit about your medals.
Oh, I don't know.
The good conduct is
Good conduct is just
just behave yourself. The
Uh,
Brown Star, what's that for?
The Brown Star is, that's one battle star. Let's see, no, there was four battles. And the Asiatic Pacific Campaign, there's 4 battle stars. And then the Good Conduct Medal, of course. World War II.
I wonder if you could get your wife to hold that and let the camera see it, and then perhaps you can explain what some of those are.
Oh, yeah.
You got it okay?
Can you get that straight?
Yep,
Is that better?
just hold it right there.
Okay.
You got, these are one per year, these stripes. And these are 2 bars
They call them hash
a
marks.
year. These are the hash marks.
Yeah.
And this is the Purple Heart.
What was that for?
I guess being battle worn and sick.
Wow.
for quite a while. This, I don't remember what this one was.
He came home not wearing a single stripe. They were all in his pocket. And I
Of
said,
course, this is the
I want those stripes.
Master
I put
Sergeant.
them on in a hurry.
And
What are the bars,
these,
Rich? No, the other bars.
these,
Yeah,
service bars. How many years you've been in, I guess? As I remember them, I think there were 2 per year.
Right.
2 per year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then the medals up in the middle that are hanging from the ribbons. What are those for?
Well, this one's good conduct. And
Uh-huh.
this is a Bronze Star Medal for Battle Star. And it's basically, this is a, I have to read that. How they call that, a Liberty. I don't know, I can't make it out. It's just another one.
This one is the efficiency honor, fidelity efficiency honor down here. This one is the Asiatic Pacific campaign for being in the
You forgot that ribbon.
area,
Had that
and the
ribbon.
World War II medal,
Where is that?
and the Bronze Star. Who's this movie star here, picture? Is that you? Wow. Dark
He
hair?
was handsome. He had
Yeah.
a lot of dark hair. He was beautiful
Wow.
head of hair. That's what I married him for.
Now,
I used to tell him that was the first thing he lost.
here it is, October 45. He doesn't have hardly any of his medals on.
Right. Nothing. He had
You have
nothing
to-
on.
Get on it for that.
Well, at any rate, I put this together for him. They were all in
That's
a
great.
drawer. And
That's
I
great.
said, honey, those are gonna go in a frame.
Here's a kind of an interesting, this is kind of
That's from the war.
a summary of the high spots of Australia. It looked like it was prepared somewhere. Somebody put these together, and
Do you remember where you got that, honey?
they're all paintings of,
One of the men, I think,
Would the
was
army
sort of
be,
an artist.
excuse me, would they be interested in any of this kind of thing?
Yes.
Would they? I mean, I don't know that it means that much to our children. They've seen it. You know, but what they would do with it.
do take donations of memoirs and photographs and,
It's quite interesting, I think.
What is
And
this?
It's, of course, very old.
Right.
That is a rendering of the bombing at,
who drew that?
that was a friend of mine.
Oh,
He's a great artist.
now I,
Melanie Bay.
from previous experience, this is the rag, I guess you call them, that circulates around.
Right.
And this is the only form of information that you folks get while you're there. That's another question that I frequently try to remember to ask. How much of where we were in the war, were you folks aware of as you're going along?
Not a lot. I mean, we knew roughly where we were.
But you don't get anything more than
No,
something like this, which is obviously censored to the hill.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You never got a newspaper or anything of that sort, did you?
No.
He would have brought it home if he had,
Uh,
because that's what he had with him.
Was there ever any rumors about how this was gonna be resolved? Whether there was gonna be a mass invasion of Japan or whether
No,
some other, you knew nothing of,
no.
because some of the folks we've talked to were either involved or were aware of the upcoming choices that were gonna be made.
That would be some of the younger ones under us, because
Maybe you want to see this.
when we got to, well, like I said, I was told that if I signed up for 6 more months and go to Japan for 6 months, they would like to see me do that, but I said, no, I'm going home.
What would they have you be doing in Japan?
They wanted to make you a commissioned officer, did they not?
Yeah, they offered me a position as like a commissioned officer, and
But I wasn't allowed to go with them.
yeah, I
at
turned
all.
it down.
Was that your choice
Yeah,
or your wife's?
no,
Well, it
I
was his.
said I'm going home.
Good.
Home is where I belong.
Now, at the time, was the war over when they gave you that choice?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
War was over.
What happened when you heard about the 2 bombs?
We
How
were-
did you find out and what did you feel like?
Well, we were elated because we heard about it and we knew that was the end of the war.
So that invasion kind of went away, which is probably nobody wanted to be a part of.
Right.
Honey, you told me at one time you went through the walled city of Japan, was it?
No,
On your
that's
way
the
before you came home?
Philippines,
There was a-
yeah.
What was this?
Well, when we moved on up to go into the Philippines, we had to, our artillery had to shell the walled city, which was bad. We didn't like to do it. But that's where the Japanese were hiding. You could drive a car inside the walled city, or the walls. And they were hiding in there, so they had to bomb it. And our artillery was across the river, and they were shooting over our heads all night long, just to get rid of the Japanese. That wasn't very pleasant. Because every time that we had cots, but every time the shelling started, we'd hit the dirt. We didn't know whether it was incoming or outgoing shelling.
Did you carry over any friendships you made?
We did it first.
Yeah, I had
We visited
one friend,
in Chicago and we visited in Milwaukee.
yeah.
And then for some reason, we lost track. I think people had families and they moved
Yeah.
and whatever, and it just kind of, I feel badly that it did.
Yeah.
I would love to see some of the gentlemen that I met.
How long do you think it took you to readjust back to civilian life again?
Not too long. I think I was back at work in, what, a couple of weeks?
He was very determined to just forget it all and go to work.
Yeah.
That's all he talked about. I'm going to work. And he did.
How much of this experience have you revisited since that time? Or is this something you've just pushed aside as,
I think so.
That's
yes.
all.
He
yeah.
wouldn't even talk about much of it until we'd play cards with my brother and his wife and whatever, and little by little information would come out, but at first, he wouldn't tell me much of anything.
It's very
He just didn't
typical.
want to talk about it.
Yeah,
He wanted to bury it. And I think it was for the better. He was one that never felt sorry for himself. He just said, I'm going to work.
well, it's a way of getting yourself back
Exactly,
to civilian life
exactly.
and get rid of the
All the
terrible
memories.
ordeal that you went through.
Right. I was proud of him.
I know I can speak for myself that I had no idea when I started this 5 years ago how much you folks carried with you, not just the 3 or 4 years, but the rest of your life.
Right.
Well, I think if we didn't have faith in God,
Wow.
I don't know how I would have gotten through. I couldn't have. He carried a rosary with him full time, he said. That's what you told me. And we wrote practically every night to each other.
Wow.
They didn't all get there, but we tried. We had a lot,
Good for you.
we had a lot to hold on to.
Yeah,
That's probably why you're still here together.
probably.
I think so.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anybody have a question or a comment you'd like to make?
Rich, did you belong to any organizations when you returned home, like the Veterans of Foreign Wars or, you know, any of the military-related organizations?
You did for a while. Don't you remember?
Which one?
Veterans.
The Veterans of Foreign Wars?
That was in Indiana. We lived in Indiana for several years. He was transferred.
Where did you live in Indiana?
First it was Indianapolis, and then we moved out to Carmel, and
Well,
after our daughter left.
We lived in Noblesville for 9 years, right next to Carmel.
That's where
Yeah.
we built our retirement home, in Noblesville.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And we lived there 10 years, and that's when he took with his heart problems. And our children, of course, were scattered.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I wanted to come back to Michigan, because we were born and raised here, both of us in Harbor Beach. We were both born there. And I had sisters and brothers here, so we sold our home and came back to Michigan.
We lived in South Harbor, in Noblesville.
Is that right? We lived just, well, right in that little town of Noblesville, kind of on the outskirts.
You wouldn't
Loved it.
recognize it now.
Loved it. No, we enjoyed it.
Well, Rich, I really appreciate you sharing with us. I know those are not fond memories, but it's something we will now have on tape. It'll go to the Washington Library of Congress. You will get a copy of this interview, taped copy, so that you can look at and perhaps share with your kids, which would be nice.
Very nice, thank you.
Have you had opportunities from time to time to discuss your little party with any of the family?
One of your grandchildren, remember? Or your great-grandchildren, it was little Ella.
Yeah.
Her dad called,
Oh.
she was doing a subject on the Second World War.
My goodness.
I don't remember whether, well, she was only in the 2nd grade. It was last year.
Well, this is something you can share with them with a nice,
They'll love to see
Video
it. Our boys will love
and
to see
listen
it.
to your comments, probably more than they ever heard.
There's one more thing I wanted to mention. He has, what is that blue ribbon? It is about at least 3 feet
Yeah.
with the gold, it's real blue with gold lettering.
It's
And you have it hanging.
It's a campaign ribbon.
Campaign ribbon. Have you seen any of those? See, I told him, get all that stuff together. I can go up and get it if you'd like to see it. It's interesting. I have it hanging on the wall.
What is
Wow.
it from?
From where, honey? Do you remember?
Uh,
One of the campaigns. Why don't I go up and get it?
Sure.
You have to have,
Where are those letters? I'd like to show those
you got the key.
cablegrams they
What
call
was your name again?
Evelyn?
Evelyn. I'll talk to you about the papers and stuff like that when you
Good.
come back.
Fine, I
Okay.
will. Gladly.
Well, it was nice getting Evelyn's point of view too.
Yeah.
It starts recording.
That-
See,
There's some,
are you seeing
That was
this?
me.
see what I'm talking about?
Ooh, what a stud. Wow.
Yeah.
He was handsome.
Would you hold that up, please?
Oh, okay. Is
Uh,
that right side?
No, there,
That's the right side.
Okay.
if,
Is that close enough?
if I can get the tail end of it, I'll hold it
Yeah,
up. a little
yeah,
bit.
hold,
Yeah, that was,
What is that? P-A-P-U-A, that's,
Papa,
Papa,
what is that?
Papa,
in New Guinea,
Campaign, New Guinea.
Isn't that some,
in New Guinea,
in New Guinea? Yeah.
yeah.
Are you able to pick that up?
yes, I've got that.
Now, what was that hanging from
Okay,
or,
that's fine.
or attached to?
Flag.
It was on a flag.
You know those strips that hang on the flag?
Okay.
And those are the different
Company flag,
campaigns
probably.
throughout the,
how did you get this, honey? I don't remember.
Well,
Or it has the date on it.
it was on the company flag, and I took it when I left.
I think I'm reading letters.